Hello everyone, I'm Wazzup, and I hope you all are doing well. Today I wanted to make a commentary video about field offices. My honest thoughts. I mostly wanted to start with my experience with field offices, just to give you a bit of insight about, sort of the reason why I'm saying some of the things I'm going to say in this video. So yeah, they've been out for about 2 years now. I think they came out December 2021, pretty sure. I'm still doing the tasks. I haven't finished the task line yet. I'll get there. I promise I'll get there in time. But yeah, it's, I've mostly been having bad groups. That's mostly the biggest reason why I haven't really finished it yet. Usually as a result of disconnections, people that are unprepared, or just really bad strategy that no, just no. So I wanted to bring up a couple quick tips too. In the ice game, you should prioritize the cold callers. I know this is really obvious to a lot of people, but focus on the cold callers first, because they will undo your progress and you'll finish the game a lot faster. Especially if you're doing a one-man army of it, definitely go after the cold callers. You tend to want to use your damage remotes on the lower level cogs and healing on higher, and yeah, just two very simple tips that will help you a lot if you don't know what you're doing. I'd recommend bringing max tracks, gag tracks. Bring tons of rewards just in case, especially if you're going with randoms. Have remotes and have a plan if you don't have any, and just read up just a little bit on the mechanics. I'm sure there's tons of guides about field offices out there. I really like how they added 8 more levels and made it self-contained to field offices alone. I think that's a great addition to not really change a lot of the other parts of the game, but to just kind of make it a place where, this is where you find those higher level cogs. This is where it makes it feel like it's more of an endgame boss facility or flashpoint, I guess. I like how they also added another area for Sellbots, and the Sellbots are higher leveled. I feel like the Sellbots in general they do the most damage and they do a lot of AoE attacks, so making them higher leveled is perfect because it makes them even more deadly. And I really like how, since there's higher leveled cogs, you have a place to dump your rewards. I feel like since they made the changes to the CEO a bit back, I feel like since the removal of carryover and the addition of that resistance reinforced plating, I feel like it's made the CEOs less focused on strategy, because on the carryover strategies at least, and more so on filtering out those 2.0 so you can just use sound and clean up. I feel like the second round for the CEO has also been made a lot easier, since you're just going after the I forgot what they're called. The version 2.0 cogs or whatever. I think that with those changes, I'm using less rewards there, so I'm more likely to use it here. Another positive I feel that field offices really shine with is I feel like they're very fun with friends, especially when you're not having bad luck, or when you're just testing strategies. Honestly, I feel like that is when it's the most fun for me. I really like how the task line has been developed a little bit more past the CEO tasks. I feel like that adds a lot more to the end game of the game itself. I haven't even finished the tasks yet, but it's not I don't know, I feel like the tasks are structured well enough to where it doesn't drag out crazily, and I feel like they have enough challenge to them, they're distinct enough. And I do like the new area too that they added in Sellbot HQ. I think those were nice additions. I like how they didn't I don't know, it makes sense where they placed it, it's out of the way. So the last point I wanted to cover is I like that it's possible to do a one-man army. At first I didn't think it was possible, but it really is. You just have to be good enough at the mini-games, honestly. That's just the crux of it. It really is. One other thing that I wanted to mention was the Toontown API. This is really awesome because it allows you to send data requests and you can receive information about Toontown that's live updated information about where the field offices are, you know, what invasions are active, and that being public is really awesome because that's allowed for like integrations to really help streamline the field offices. Now, on to the negatives. What I dislike, or in some cases hate, about field offices. I don't like that they're not like super multi-tune friendly. I know that's kind of like intentional, but I do kind of prefer like the VP and the CJ, for example, because I feel like those two bosses, more so than other ones, are the most friendly to multi-tuning. Especially if you do like 4. Like 4 and up, like it starts getting a little crazier depending on the situation. But yeah, I tend to prefer to play with more than one tune at a time because, I don't know, like in some ways I feel like it's a little bit more like up to my speed whenever I'm playing on like just one tune. Sometimes like I'll be playing like another game at the same time. But yeah, I think that they're engaging enough at least to not require that. The next point I wanted to kind of go over was the inconsistencies. Now, with a VP, you know exactly what you're getting almost every time. You're gonna be using sound and drop, and then just fog spamming and lure if you have that. If you have like organic sound or whatever. Super quick, super easy, but you know what you're getting every time. That's pretty much the same with the CJ, depending on like the tier, the CFO. You know what you're getting. It's a CFO, but I feel like the Sellbot Field offices, they have different maps. Some maps are better than others, especially if you go like different sides of the map. You'll get different gag tracks depending on the run. Sometimes you'll get like really bad gags when you could just get sound right off the bat and restock later. So like things like that, it can really affect your run. Same with like the boiler's attacks. Sometimes he'll take away gags that you don't need, and you'll be just fine. And then other times he'll take away throw and sound, and you're just like, just stuck there having to use other things for X number of turns. And I feel like this has driven the game the field offices to sort of require you to restock. Not always. I mean, you don't have to, especially if you're using really good strategy and are patient enough. But most of the time, I'm gonna need to restock if I don't get anything good or use SOS cards or whatever. So I think that this has made field offices pretty inconsistent. Some runs you'll have no problem, and other runs you'll be struggling the whole time if it just goes bad. So this could also be a positive. You know, it's not stale. I feel like field offices are different enough every time to I don't know, keep you coming back. That can be sort of. The next negative I have is actually probably the biggest one. I would say, yeah, it's that they're not always available. I don't like that. Like, I understand, like, if they're unavailable for, like, you know, maybe 15 minutes or so, like, sometimes you have to wait for a task to reset. Like, if it's 5 minutes away from the next hour, you can just wait 5 minutes, and you can get all the new tasks. All the tasks will, like, refresh and everything. So, I do like that they do refresh. I just feel like they should reduce the time for that. And also, sometimes when it's bugged, you can go like over 2 hours of it not being available, and then yeah, it kind of defeats the purpose of playing if you're trying to progress. So I think that that's a huge negative. It's a lot better nowadays, now that there's less people doing field offices than there were at launch. So I think that's a really big drawback. And the next point is, I think that the reward itself, it's not very useful outside of field offices. You, like, I haven't ever done it. I think mostly because I'm trying to save, but like, you don't need remotes outside of it. They're okay for training, but there's just better stuff. Like, I don't know. It's nice to have them, and I like that. I don't know. I think they should. I like that it's useful in the field offices itself, but I think that outside of it, it's not designed for outside usage, which is why I think it's not that good of a reward in terms of what's out there. Plus, most of the time when you're doing field offices, most of the time you're going to be using remotes anyways, unless you're doing like the triple trap lure strategy. Now, I also wanted to start and mention that I feel like the boiler fight was done pretty well. I like how it has sort of phases, like boss fights in other games. I think that when things like that kind of develop and take you to the next stage, I feel like it sort of escalates it, makes it feel more intense. I like that, I like that about it, but I don't like that it feels a bit overly mechanical. Like everywhere else in the game, there's like a key mechanic that is in the boss fight that can sort of change it up, like the reinforced plating or carryover previously. But with the mechanics with the boiler fight, with like raising the cogs defenses, lowering your attack, lowering your accuracy, or raising the cogs accuracy, there's a lot of different mechanics that go into it that can change it and can make it better or worse. But sometimes I feel like the mechanics can take over a little bit, and it can kind of, you're more so thinking about, like, I don't know, like you're thinking ahead, which is cool. I do like that, but I think that sometimes it can drag on, and when it does, you really feel it. Sometimes it's better to just use restock and get it over with. And to add to that, also, I wanted to mention that, like, sometimes it can feel like there's too many mechanics to keep track of, that you kind of just start ignoring them. If that makes sense. Like, you don't need to worry about all the mechanics. So sometimes like you can be paying too much attention when it really isn't. Like, you don't have to overthink it a lot of the time. Usually it's just how you're attacking and what you're doing in each turn, what you're accomplishing. And I previously sort of glanced at this other point, but I feel like there's not really an incentive to do field offices. Now, I think the task line giving you more laugh points, sort of allowing everyone to remax again, I think that's pretty cool, and that's an incentive enough. Like, I was eventually gonna do that, but I think that, like, after the point, or after you max it, I don't know if I can see myself doing these unless I'm doing them with friends or doing a one-man army. I don't really see myself, like, just joining a random group, because I feel like it's contingent on people knowing the strategy or kind of agreeing on a certain set of standards. My last point was that it feels like the entire game, in not everywhere, but like in most cases, was restructured to fit this update. I don't think that's a bad thing, and I think that systemic changes can be good, but I think that it didn't really need to, in the sense, like, I feel like level 12s, even though you guys are more likely to miss in lower leveled cogs and stuff, I feel like them being on the higher formula kind of nerfed them a little bit, because being set to 200 HP kind of put them out of range, and it sort of made the other bosses, the other 4, a little bit less difficult, in the sense that you can just use 3 organic frogs and lure pretty much any set and wipe them all out without issue, which I think is a great change and has helped efficiency throughout the lower level and the other bosses and stuff. But I don't think that you really need to change other places when adding new ones. Personally, I kind of like when things are more contained. Like, if you're going to release something, you're going to release that thing, and it's not going to change the entire game up to that point. I sort of like keeping older stuff in the game, even though it's, like, outdated, I guess. Like, in a sense, like, the VP battle, just take the VP battle for example. It is what it is. You get 2 SOS cards if you win. Very simple. 2 battle rounds, an interlude, a high round. Like, it's really quick and easy. But what they could do is, like, make the VP its own sort of thing. Its isolated base level boss or whatever. And then you could add, like, a different selection when you're making a boarding group in the elevator. That way you can do, like, a harder version. They could totally just add in another version and sort of have it be like a selectable option that could maybe give more SOS or whatever. I feel like stuff like that would be the sort of changes I'm looking for, where it's sort of optional if you want to experience different gameplay styles. So yeah, that's pretty much most of what I wanted to cover. I don't think there's really much else. If there is, I might put it in the description in the comments. But I feel like field offices were a good addition to the game. I don't think they're perfect, I don't think they are perfect today, but I do think that they add enough to the game and kind of achieved what they were looking for. So, what are your thoughts on the field offices? Honestly, I'm genuinely curious. I feel like it's either 50-50 with some people. You either love or hate it. I don't know. I don't really like hear a lot of people like discussing much about them. So I'm curious to know, like, if you want to let me know, just let me know in the comments. Like, what do you think about that? Seriously. So, yeah. That's pretty much most of what I wanted to cover. I hope you guys enjoyed. Wazzup, and I'm out. Peace.